And welcome back to the North Star Takes podcast with Bailey Policki and Jacob Liberta. You can find all our videos here on our channel, so hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're going to be talking some more Timberwolves today as Ben Simmons rumors keep swirling around league circles. Apparently it came out recently that he has told the Philadelphia 76ers he wants out of there. He wants to be traded. Apparently he has a rumored interest in going to California, which probably surprises absolutely nobody, knowing Ben Simmons.
Yes.
So that leaves like the Lakers, the Clippers, Golden State, and Sacramento Kings. Apparently there was a recent report that the Kings don't want to have to pay the price to get Ben Simmons, which I don't know if the Kings really have anyone of value that would really, maybe De'Aaron Fox or something, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But according to John Krasinski of The Athletic, Ben Simmons would welcome a trade to Minnesota as well. It's so hard to see the Wolves making this move still. The pieces they'd have to give up to get him, I don't know. What do you think about it? Do you think there's a higher likelihood now than, say, a couple weeks ago?
Probably, but at the same time, I guess I don't know how much has changed in these few weeks. Like, obviously, Simmons has come out and said he wants to be traded, but at the same time, I feel like the Sixers were doing that behind the scenes already anyway. So, I feel like that doesn't really make much of a difference.
Yep.
And then, as far as asking price goes, it's probably pretty close to what it was. So, I don't really want to pay a steep price for Simmons, really, because after that Pat Bev trade, I'm kind of intrigued with the way this roster's built right now, and I kind of want to see what happens with this group before making any other drastic moves. I don't know. I just feel like Pat Bev and Okogie can be enough of grinders off the bench and playing defense and
McDaniels even as a defender.
Exactly, and I feel like they can basically do what we'd want Simmons to do for this team. So I'd kind of at least try it, and obviously it would require everybody to stay healthy and see if we could really get a good look at this team.
Right.
But honestly, I'm kind of right now I'm off the Simmons bandwagon, but I just think that the price would be too much. That it would kind of make me a little worrisome about what we'd be moving just to bring in Simmons.
Right, and realistically, it's probably going to take moving D'Lo, which Gerson Rosas doesn't really want to do.
No, because it was always there's a pathway to D'Lo.
Yes, and I don't really want to move on from him yet either. He's been slightly underwhelming since we've gotten him, but if you move him, you have no point guards. Patrick Beverley can't be your starting point guard. Jordan McLaughlin, if you bring him back, shouldn't be your starting point guard. So they'd have another hole at point guard. You don't really want Ben Simmons to be your point guard because that's kind of what the problem was in Philly. So I'd say give this team a couple months, like you said. Let's see what we have here. I think if D'Lo is underwhelming once again, if he's kind of just playing that loose style of basketball where it looks kind of sloppy almost, then you could maybe consider throwing him in on a Ben Simmons deal sometime around the trade deadline. Who knows? But if this big three between D'Lo, Ant, and Cat can really start to carry this team and play at a high level, then you got the role players of Beasley, McDaniels, Pat Bev, Okogie, even like a Jared Vanderbilt, even Naz Reid. Naz Reid was really good off the bench last year.
Exactly.
This team is so much deeper than it was a year ago, and if all three of our main guys can get better, and Cat's been getting better every year. D'Lo, I guess his best season was a couple years ago with Brooklyn, but maybe he can improve. Having a full off season with this current group. Ant, I think, is only going to get better and better.
Yes.
His potential is off the charts.
Yes.
I think it makes sense to kind of see what we have, let Chris Finch coach him up, get him in the system, and just kind of see what happens because, like you said, it's a really interesting group of players.
I think there's a lot of potential here, and I just don't want to blow up potential just to bring in Simmons, kind of like force a big move to think something that's gonna put us in contention. So, it just depends obviously on what we'd have to really move when it comes down to it, and maybe we'd probably have to wait a little bit longer to really make a move for Simmons when the Sixers lower their asking price. But I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, but at the same time, for the reasons you laid out, it would be like moving D'Lo in a trade for Simmons just wouldn't really make sense from what we know about Gerson Rosas.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be just D'Lo either. You'd probably have to trade Malik Beasley, probably throw in some draft picks still. And I think D'Lo and Beasley's value combined is it's higher than Ben Simmons.
Exactly.
Because both those guys can shoot.
Exactly.
And that's the name of the game.
Exactly.
It's an offensive-driven league. And even though Ben Simmons is probably the best defensive player in the NBA, and the Wolves desperately still need defense.
Yes.
I just don't think it's a good trade-off. The Wolves want to score. Rosas has made that obvious. Chris Finch is an offensive guy. they want to play defense too, but it's more about the players actually putting in effort and caring about playing defense. Because you can't tell me that Cat isn't capable of playing good defense. I mean, he's the most athletic center in the NBA. He's 7 feet tall. He can block shots. As long as he just puts in a good effort, he's going to be a great defender. Anthony Edwards is the same way, I think. I mean, he's quick. He's aggressive. He's built big. I mean, guys can't push him around. D'Lo, I kind of understand. He's thinner framed. It's just kind of his play style is kind of relaxed or lackadaisical, if you want to call it that.
Sure.
So D'Lo, it's fine. It's whatever. It's one guy. But when you got McDaniels that can play D, Jared Vanderbilt that can play D, probably those two in your starting lineup. If you get improved defense out of Cat and Ant, I don't really see much of an issue there with how good their offense is.
Yeah, exactly. I think we have plenty of guys who can score the basketball. It's just, like you said, about effort and these guys just playing sound defensively. It doesn't have to be, like, great by any means. Just, not a liability. So.
Yeah, and I think looking ahead quickly, they start in mid-October. And their first 3 games, I believe, are all at home, and I think or maybe one's on the road.
I think one's on the road,
Because they have Houston, and then I think back-to-back with New Orleans, right?
I think they have they have back-to-back with New Orleans. That's right, yep. And then I think after that, I think they go to Milwaukee. But
yeah, so they could potentially, I don't want to jinx it or anything or get too far ahead of ourselves. They should win the first game against Houston. And then I think they could be better than the Pelicans. I really believe.
I think they should be, honestly.
So if you can beat the Pelicans both games and start off 3-0, that's a very promising start. And then you'll go to Milwaukee and probably get smoked. But I think I mean the season's coming up quick, and I think they could get off to a good start right off the bat.
Oh, 100%. Yes, it's literally just about these guys. I can pound this drum all day. Just these guys staying on the floor and not getting hurt and just really seeing what we got, because honestly it looked all right at the end of last season. We played the last 22 games. I think we were like playing 500 ball, so I mean that can definitely put you in the playoff conversation there at the bottom of the Western Conference. So I mean that's kind of what we want at this point. So if we can kind of reproduce that and really build off it and win a few more games, then I don't know, then we're gonna be sitting in a good spot at the end of the season and maybe have something to play for.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think this is the highest potential Wolves team since the post Kevin Garnett era.
Yes.
Since
we got Jimmy, but
I guess the Butler team, but in terms of like a future outlook, like you can say this is our big 3 and we plan on having them for the next however many years.
That's a good point. Yes, this is easily the best big 3 we've assembled, like you said, since the KG era.
Yeah, because even when Butler was here, it's like, well, is he going to stick around long term? Then we found out he didn't want to stick around after a year, so. I think just having Ant is such a game changer, and hopefully he can keep taking like big steps forward, and hopefully he doesn't kind of plateau here. But that'll be probably the most interesting part about this upcoming season.
Oh, I totally agree. I can't wait to see Ant's evolution. And I know you sent me a tweet today that was like, oh, Ant's grown a couple inches since basically got in the NBA, and he's like, once I get to 6'6", I'm gonna be looking like MJ out there. So, boy, if he can get anywhere close to that, we got a top 5 player, NBA superstar in our hands, which would just take this team over the top, and that'd be so much fun for years to come. Like you said, it's not just we're all in on this year, like it's for all these years coming up here in this next decade.
Yeah, I love his confidence and swagger. That's exactly what this team needs. But that's going to do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Be sure to smash that like button and hit the subscribe button as well if you haven't already. Give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter. And leave your comments below about how you feel about trading for Ben Simmons and if your mind has changed at all on that.